Variables allow us to name Python objects and reference them later. Python variable names can start out with any letter A through Z including capitals, and then after that it can contain letters and numbers. Python treats underscores like letters so they can be anywhere in a variable name. So here are some example variable names and whether they're valid or invalid. X is a valid variable name because it has only a letter in it. Value 123 is a valid variable name because it starts with the letter and contains only letters and numbers. Underscore is a valid variable name because Python treats underscores like letters. My underscore variable is a valid variable name because it only contains letters or underscores. 5x is not a valid variable name because it starts with a number. A ampersand b is not a valid variable name because of this ampersand. C plus D is not valid because of this plus. My space value is not valid because of this space. And the answer question mark is not valid because of the question mark. One thing to note about variables is that variable names are case sensitive, so a lowercase myvar to Python is a completely different variable than my capital V var. One tip that I would give when assigning variable names is that you should keep your variable names short and give them meaningful names. So for example, my var or x aren't often good variable names, but word count and num players are good because they're short and they describe what they store. You should also start names with a lowercase letter until we'll get to classes. To assign a variable, you type the variable name on the left hand side. So here I have a variable named temp underscore FAH, and then we type equals, and then we type whatever value we want to assign that variable to. If we want to use the variable, then we just write the variable name. So here we're assigning temp fa to 75.5, and then we're printing temp fa, which would print 75.5. To help us keep track of what variable keeps track of what, then it can be helpful to draw out a variable's values diagram. So here's a piece of example code. And the first thing that we do in this code is that we set temp f to 75.5. So in my variable's values diagram, I'm going to write temp f, and I'll say that it points to the value 75.5. Then we assign temp c to be the value of this expression, which I happen to know is 24.167. So I'll write temp c points to 24.167. And then when I print out temp c, then I look to see what temp c is in my variable's values diagram, and I see that it's 24.167. So I know that this prints out 24.167. Here I assign greeting to be hello. So in my variable's values diagram, I write greeting points to hello. Here I'm assigning my greeting to be the same as greeting. So I'm just going to write my greeting, and I'll have it just point to the same object as greeting. Now on this line of code, I'm reassigning temp f to be 0.0, and what that means is that I would cross out the old value for temp f, and I would add a new pointer for temp f that points to 0.0. And then finally this line, 20 plus temp f, computes 20 plus temp f, but since it doesn't actually assign anything, then we don't actually change our variable's values diagram. And one thing to note here is that to Python, variable names mean absolutely nothing. They do help us read and know what things mean, but they can be out of date. So for example, here when we reassign temp f, note that temp c, even though it depends on temp f, doesn't go along with it. So temp f here is 0.0, and temp c remains 24.167. And what I'm trying to indicate is that Python doesn't really care what we call our variables. Variable names are only meaningful for us. Python is just going to put whatever value we specify into variables. So variable names have rules about what you can name your variables. They're case sensitive, and I would recommend giving variables short, meaningful names. And for now, we're going to start names out with a lowercase letter until we get to classes.